Let's start with the Trump administration hitting the ground running. Now, Trump mentions a ton of shit in his speech, to include taking back the Panama Canal, going to Mars, ending birthright citizenship, sending troops to the border, deeming cartels terrorists, which will then allow him to send troops to, quote, fight the war on terror, which will now be in Mexico apparently, but more on that later. Here is what he has signed so far. First, the withdrawal from the Paris Climate Agreement. President Trump ordered the U.S. to once again withdraw from the Paris Climate Accord, citing concerns about its alignment with American values and its financial impact on taxpayers. This decision reiterates his stance from his first term, distancing the U.S. from global climate initiatives. Next is freezing Biden's action on Cuba. Trump reversed Biden's recent executive order lifting Cuba's designation as a state sponsor of terrorism. The freeze halts efforts to normalize relations and complicates recent agreements tied to the political prisoner releases. He also signed a regulatory freeze. An executive action was issued to suspend many new or pending federal regulations enacted under Biden's administration. This common transitional move aims to curtail what Trump views as federal outreach. Next, he signed an order bringing federal employees back to work. Trump mandates that federal employees return to working 5 days a week in the office, signaling an end to the work-from-home policies adopted during the COVID pandemic. The president vowed to enforce strict compliance with the directive. I should mention here that if you don't have an office to go back to, I think you're safe for the time being. You're also probably safe if you were hired as a remote employee. This is more so for people who have an office or who are hired as an in-person employee who just have like an office that's empty because they're working from home.
But wait, there's more.
Then we have the federal hiring freeze. Reflecting a strategy from his first term, Trump imposed a federal hiring freeze to reduce the size of government. Exceptions will be made for national security, public safety, and military positions. Finally, we have the ending birthright citizenship and some other immigration-related bills. The ending birthright citizenship order basically means that if an illegal immigrant or someone who doesn't have permanent residency or citizenship gives birth here in the U.S., that child will not automatically be an American citizen. Now, this violates the 14th Amendment, so I don't see this taking effect for a while. Next, under the Laken-Riley Act, federal agencies will begin to deport immigrants accused of theft and violent crimes. I don't know why theft. I don't know if theft also includes burglary. Kind of weird, but whatever. If you didn't know, Laken Riley was a 22-year-old nursing student in Georgia who was killed by Jose Antonio Ibarra, who was here illegally from Venezuela. Ibarra had also been previously arrested, so there's that. This act also pays tribute to Jocelyn Nungaray, Molly Tibbetts, and Karina Vetrano, who were also killed by illegal immigrants. This act initially passed in the House and Senate last year, receiving votes from both Dems and Republicans. In total, Trump undid almost 80 of Biden's initiatives, but let's talk about this Mexico thing real quick.
Oh shit, here we go.
Listen, it is an issue. With cartels bringing drugs to the U.S. and trafficking people, cash, and firearms out of the U.S., that shit needs to end, especially since we know Mexico is doing business with terrorists in the Middle East. That shit goes way back to Afghan opium fields supplying drug cartels through Chinese supply chains, but I can break that down if you guys want to hear more about that, so just let me know. My only issue is the cartels. Like, they're here in the U.S. They operate openly all over the United States, so going to war with them will literally bring war to U.S. soil. And I don't know if y'all know anything about the cartels, but they don't play. I'm talking sicarios in your backyard, aiming at you simply because they're at war with America. But let's move on. A little out of order, but let's begin with our out of focus segment, which low-key bleeds into our warfare segment. You may or may not look at the TikTok ban differently when you understand the legislation surrounding the ban. So Congress found ByteDance, the parent company of TikTok and CapCut, to be a threat to national security. This is because the People's Republic of China, or PRC, has a federal mandate which allows China to acquire information or data obtained by any Chinese company, to include ByteDance, which means that at any given moment in time, the Chinese government can get any of the information and data being collected by ByteDance, aka TikTok. This is a serious concern considering most of Americans, at least most Americans of war-fighting age, have this app on their phone. So all the data being collected can essentially be weaponized by China. I'll be discussing the weaponization of data a little bit later, but for now, let's just stick to this TikTok thing. So here's my issue. If this was so concerning, If we really thought TikTok was a threat to national security, why did not only former President Biden, but now President Trump refuse or say they're going to refuse to enforce this law? I mean, Trump gave them an extra 75 days or some shit. Besides the fact that a president can't just decide to not uphold the law, if this was really a threat to national security, wouldn't it be the responsibility of the president to uphold the law and to uphold this ban? But let's take it a step further.
Just hear me out.
If China is such a threat, then why do they currently have a hold on the metaphorical cojones
Con limones de cajones.
of the United States? They have invested in real estate around military bases, around financial sectors across the country. They have a hold on our agriculture and some of our biggest exports, as well as some of our biggest imports. If China really is a threat outside of global economy, shouldn't we be doing more to break some of our ties and some of our dependence on them? Shouldn't it be made a little bit more difficult for foreign nationals and foreign businesses to purchase property and own pieces of this country? Why was the line drawn at an app? Yes, this app is great. It's great for business owners who weren't otherwise able to market effectively on other platforms. Yes, it allows consumers to network. But if TikTok is so bad because of China's influence, then shouldn't we be looking at the whole picture, at all of China's American holdings and access? This brings me to my next point. If the most sacred thing to an American citizen in this day and age is their data, then how come the United States hasn't established a federal data policy? Legal Eagle, who just recently posted a video on this topic, which I'll leave a link to that in the description, but he poses the same question, but he also speculates that this is because a lot of the American economy is dependent upon the data and information we collect through social media platforms. We've left it up to our states to establish their own privacy policies like California's CCPA, but not all states have this, and since we don't have a data collection policy at the federal level, it has become impossible to enforce what happens to the data collected on any app. Here's the catch. If we did create a federal policy that would block China, it would also block Facebook and Instagram and all of the other social media platforms that collect and sell our data. I mean, yes, we don't want China to have our data as one of our, big three adversaries, but if we truly care about the American public, we would want to do more to protect their data in general. Shameless plug here, but I run MB Security, also known as Virga Security. We come in and we help protect critical infrastructure and businesses, and we've been putting out a ton of information on ways the general public can protect themselves, so I highly recommend you check that out. Again, link in the video description.